What do you call a computer that sings? A Dell. Cause like the singer, Adele? Oh boy. Alright, now that we're off to a great start, let's talk about Dell. Remember how they used to be the biggest computer brand in the world? From 2003 to 2006, in terms of market share, they were the biggest. Remember this guy?
You can get a Dell with what you find right here. Dude, you're getting a Dell.
That was an extremely popular marketing campaign. I was like 10 years old at the time, and everyone at my school was saying it. I don't even know why, we were just saying it. Like, we would get someone's attention by saying, dude, and then they would look up and say, what? And we would say, you're getting a Dell, trying not to laugh. I don't know, I don't get it anymore either, but trust me, it was funny. Dell was huge, but after 2006, they lost that #1 spot to HP and have never gotten it back. To be clear, they haven't failed, they're still in business, but I think anyone would agree that they've had some tough times and are still nowhere near the level they used to be, at least in the PC market. So let's take a look at how they gained that #1 spot, how they lost it, and where they stand today. Now, when we're talking about Dell, there's one person that's directly tied to the company, Michael Dell. It's named after him, he started it, and he's been the CEO for most of its existence, including today. He's the current CEO. He's number 39 on Forbes' list of the richest people in the world, showing a net worth of over $22 billion. This guy's a genius, and he started the company when he was 19 years old. At age 12, he made $2,000 by starting a mail-order trading card business. In high school, he made $18,000 in a single year delivering newspapers. He implemented all these effective sales strategies and detected new customers using data sifting techniques. So at age 19, he went away to college at the University of Texas at Austin, and with $1,000 capital, which even in 1983 was practically nothing in terms of starting a business, he started a business. The initial business involved buying stock computer parts, assembling them into clones of IBM computers, and selling them for cheaper prices. His business was based on the principle of cutting out the middleman. He would advertise in places like computer magazines and mail the orders to the customers, cutting out the need for distributors and physical stores, which would save them money and allow them to sell at lower prices. Here's a quote from Michael Dell. He says, "I saw that you'd buy a PC for about $3,000, and inside that PC was about $600 worth of parts. IBM would buy most of these parts from other companies, assemble them, and sell the computer to a dealer for $2,000. Then the dealer, who knew very little about selling or supporting computers, would sell it for $3,000, which was even more outrageous. The first year of business resulted in $6 million in sales. Remember, he was still a freshman in college, running it completely out of his dorm. By the end of his freshman year, he was generating sales of $25,000 per month. I think he made the logical decision by dropping out of school and pursuing this full time. By the summer of the next year, instead of just making clones of computers made by other companies, they started making their own computers. By the end of their second year, their sales had increased to almost $40 million. In 1987, they were the first of their kind to implement computer repair house calls. Instead of you bringing the computer to them, they would come out to you. Really, they sort of had to do it because there weren't any physical stores for people to bring their computers to, but it helped their reputation of having positive customer service and again helped separate them from the competition. By 1988, their sales were $258 million, and they raised $30 million by becoming a public company and selling 3.5 million shares at $8.50 apiece. This might be the most remarkable first 5 years of a company I've ever seen. Just considering the fact that it was started by a 19-year-old college freshman in his dorm room and within 5 years became a multi-million-dollar publicly traded company? Holy cow. And it just continued to grow from there. In 1989, they were the 22nd largest PC maker. In the next year, they were number 6. And then from 1991 to 1992, their sales more than doubled, and they first made their debut on the Fortune 500 list. with Michael Dell being the youngest CEO on the list at age 27. This guy was really young. In 1996, they launched Dell.com and started selling their PCs over the internet. The way Dell had separated themselves from the beginning was cutting out the middleman. It was a business built on the idea that retail stores were unnecessary and they could deal directly with the customers. At first, it was through catalogs and over the phone, but you could imagine how much easier the internet would make all of this. They were running their business on the same principles as an online retailer anyway. They were now using the internet to coordinate the customer orders with orders from the suppliers. It was an easier means of technical support and just a superior way for customers to place orders. Within the first 6 months, their online sales had reached $1 million every day. By 1999, it had gone up to $30 million daily, which was 40% of their overall sales. The next year, they were selling $40 million through their website every day. It was soon after this when they started that obnoxiously catchy ad campaign. Soon after that, they took that #1 spot of PC market share. Look at their sales graph from the very beginning up until 2005. It wasn't a flawless 22 years, but my goodness, I don't think they could have hoped for any better than this. From a 19-year-old college student building PCs with the $1,000 he started with, to becoming the world's largest PC maker with over $50 billion in sales. If I extend the graph, we see their sales did continue a little longer, but it gets a little shaky after that. Here's why I identify 2006, 2007 as being the turning point. For one, that's when they lost that top spot of PC market share to HP. During that year, HP stock went up 45%, while Dell stock declined 16%. And also, consider their operating margins. An operating margin can show how profitable a company is. Here's a graph comparing Dell and HP from this time. If you look at 2003, for Dell, it shows 8.55%, meaning for every dollar in sales, they made 8.5 cents in operating earnings. The higher, the better. And you can see in 2006, it fell for Dell and it went up for HP, and those trends just continued. Also around this time, they had a recall of 4.1 million laptop batteries because they could erupt in flames. That's not good for profits, but it's really not good for their reputation. I don't want my laptop to erupt in flames. They were also being criticized for their poor customer service, and an accounting scandal came to light that I don't want to talk too much about right now, but it ended in Dell paying a $100 million settlement in 2010. So between their falling financial state, market share, stock price, operating margin, and their falling reputation, battery recall, customer service, accounting scandal, I'd say this was a bad time for Dell. Now, I've been talking about Michael Dell being the CEO, but he actually wasn't during all of this. He was CEO up until 2004, and then this new guy, Kevin Rollins, stepped in. During his time in charge, the company was criticized for lacking innovation. The criticism was that they were too concerned with offering an inexpensive computer and getting it to the customer quickly, rather than making a good computer. They were spending considerably less on research and development than their competitors, which has sort of always been their strategy, but I suppose customer tastes were changing and they're becoming more and more concerned with a good product and willing to pay more for it. Once everything went bad, Rollins left, and Michael Dell came back. That's when he tried to turn everything around, and I'm not so sure how effective it was initially. He took over right before the economic downturn in 2008, which didn't help things, but also the market for PCs isn't what it used to be. With the introduction of the iPad in 2010, along with other tablets, and even smartphones, people aren't relying on personal computers as much as they used to. Dell has always been mainly concerned with computers, but I think at this point, they saw that they were struggling to stay on top of the computer industry, and it wasn't the ideal industry anymore anyway. From there, they've slowly but surely been changing their focus from PC sales to services. They've been acquiring all these other companies, most of them involved in IT or network security or cloud storage. In 2013, they made a huge move when Michael Dell and a private equity firm called Silver Lake Partners got together to buy Dell. They took the company private for the first time since that initial public public offering in 1988. Michael Dell said the reasoning behind this was because the investors were too concerned with short-term earnings and they needed to make some big changes. I suppose taking it off the market for a while allowed them some freedom to take chances and switch things up so they could build something that'll be profitable in the long term. Probably the biggest thing they've done during this time is buy the company EMC, which focuses on traditional and cloud-based storage centers. It cost $67 billion and formed the world's largest privately controlled tech company. The move further supports their switch away from computers and towards services, so much so that they changed their name to Dell Technologies. Today, the state of ownership of Dell is a little strange, but they're working toward becoming a public company once again. Let me know in the comments, was I the only one who did the "dude, you're getting a Dell" thing in school? Sometimes you'd say, "dude," like you were really upset, and then the other person goes, "what?" And then you'd start smiling and say, "you're getting a Dell." Alright. But also, let me know if you agree with the reasons I provided for their downfall, and if you think they've been moving in the right direction since. It appears to me that they have, but there's a lot to consider. You can make so many arguments concerning their struggles, so if you have any thoughts about it that I didn't address, please leave them in the comments. And Michael Dell, I know I've said it too many times already, but 19, I can't get over it. Are you as impressed as I am? I'd like to hear what you have to say.
You're gonna say it, aren't you?
Oh, he knows.
Thank you.